Hi, welcome back to another video, GHL101, Likha Workshop, where you learn to skip the click and do the trick. In this video, we'll be talking about the back end of your sub account, creating the system that will be moving for your tools, making operations from one tool to another. We have automation, aka workflows. In workflow lists, we are currently seeing a bunch of folders, and these folders are named accordingly depending on the functionality of each workflows. This is suggested for your sub account if you're ever creating a huge project or a client-based project. Name your workflows accordingly and at the same time folder them. Now to start this, let's create a workflow from scratch. If you're curious, we are seeing here a purple button named Build Using AI. If you click this, we'll have an option, an AI builder for your workflow. What do you want to automate? Build workflows for free by chatting with AI. Now, to start, let's go to the blue button once again, create workflow, and then click start from scratch. Once you're inside a workflow, you are now currently seeing a workflow with no trigger or action whatsoever. And if you notice, we also have this on the screen of what we clicked earlier, build a workflow with AI. It's the same functionality. It's just in case that you didn't notice the button. Now, at the left side, let's start by understanding what do we have in the sidebar. First off, we have notes. It's seen here. If we click this part, we have notes, and then we can note what understanding or what should we know about this workflow. It will depend on your preference if you want to add this in your workflow, but it is also suggested that you always have a comment or comments inside your workflow, and also have action notes for your workflow. We also have errors, or where you will see a bunch of errors if ever you have any error inside your workflow. This is useful since if ever you are building a big project or big system inside your sub account in one workflow, you can track whether or not you have any errors. We also have stats view. So if you click this, you'll have a short description of the status of your workflow. It has a note stats are only available for the last 30 days. So if you ever you are wondering what are the updates, it will only record the last 30 days. We also have sticky notes. This can be clicked and like a sticky note in real life, you can add it inside your workflow and add notes to it. We also have workflow switcher. If you want to switch from one workflow to another, you don't have to have another tab, but you can do that. But you can also use this workflow switcher to switch from one workflow to another. And it will also have this functionality, switching this by the recent workflow that you've been in or by typing in the name of the workflow. We also have here find and replace. Find and replace is very useful when you have a huge workflow inside an automation. You can click here and update a custom value, and you can also change it. If you don't want to update a custom value, you can also update tags or you can update text, and then this will be the replacing value. And then for the second to the last, we have version history. If you ever end up having a long progress in your workflow, you can always go back to version history. If you want to go back to the same progress that you had before, then you can click here and then click the three button icon and then create a new workflow from this version. If you ever click this, you can name your new workflow, copying that version, having this name, whatever name that you gave this workflow, and then the version one, and then dash copy. This helps you if you want to restore a specific progress that you had from your workflow. And then lastly, we have Workflow AI. This has the same functionality as we have over here, but now we have build and chat. Chat basically helps you whether you want to audit this workflow or ask something that you don't understand. So if I ever have not tackled this part in the lesson of the workflow and you notice that you don't understand this part, then feel free to ask here and ask AI inside Workflow Editor. We also have build. Build has the same functionality as what we have here in the dash or the graph of the workflow. But here, if ever you already built your workflow, this will disappear and you'll only have this build. The build Ask AI inside your workflow can form automation, email campaign, lead nurturing, appointment automation, whatever is related to these cases, you can do. If you ever want to change a bulk amount of workflows, then you can also use this. But not multiple workflows, but multiple action inside one workflow. Now, to start, we can begin by understanding what is trigger and what is actions. Which one goes first? A trigger or an action? To understand this, let's first understand what's a trigger and what's an action. As you can see on the screen, we have a button, Add New Trigger. Clicking this will pop up a list of triggers that we can see at the right side of the workflow. The list of triggers contains birthday reminders, contact change, contact created, contact DND, and a lot more. You can also see the categories or search the specific trigger that you want by looking at the search bar and clicking this category button. You can also expand this pop-up by clicking the expand button beside the X button. This will expand the list of triggers. Now, moving along, what is a trigger? A trigger is basically why a contact is inside a workflow. So let's say a contact is created. If a contact is created, then it will go inside this workflow. Now, let's go and click contact created. Once you click this, you'll have the option to change the trigger again if ever you change your mind. And we can also name this workflow trigger. As of now, its name fits its function. Now, we can also have a filter for this trigger. Adding a filter will give you filters that has a drop down. Selecting this drop down, we have contact type, email, phone, and tag. Clicking contact type will give you options of select operator. It has equals to and not equals to. Let's say we want that contact to be equals to. Equals to what? Equals to the specification we'll be having in this filter. Clicking the select dropdown will give you customer or lead. If the contact that is created is a customer, then it will go inside the workflow. Now that's the full functionality of this trigger. We can also change this by changing the operator. We want this trigger to not include the customer contact type. Now let's click not equals to. Now this workflow will only accept a contact if the created contact is not equals to a customer. But for our workflow, we want this to be equals to a customer. But you know what? Let's change this to lead. I want this contact that is created to have the contact type equals to lead. We can save this and you can see the update on your workflow. Now that is a trigger. If you're wondering, why is there another button here? We already have a trigger. Well, the button here says you can have another trigger. So if ever you have different functionalities inside your workflow, if you have different conditions that you want to apply in this workflow, why a contact goes inside your workflow, you can add another trigger. Sometimes you want to specify everything. Let's say the created contact is not enough. You want both lead and customer to go inside the workflow. To do that, we can do it again by clicking Add New Trigger and then selecting Contact Created. Let's filter that by clicking Add Filters and then select Contact Type. And then let's select the operator as equals to. And then click Select, and we have here Customer. Let's save the trigger. And then now we have two different triggers that will function at the same time, checking if the contact that is created has the contact type, whether it is customer or lead. Now, let's understand what's an action. Now, let's answer the question, what is an action? As you can see here, we have a small button that has a plus sign. Clicking this will give you the list of tags. Right here, once again, on the right side, we can always expand this or let's just minimize. But for now, let's keep it on the right side. Right here, we have a certain amount of action lists, but for our workflow, we'll be adding a tag. The action is what the operation that will happen inside your workflow. So the action will be if a contact goes through this action, then a tag will be added to them. Now let's click Add Contact Tag. Now I want that contact to have a tag that will be added here inside this workflow. Let's say you don't have any tags since your sub account is very brand new. In our sub account, we already have existing tags, but we can always create a tag here in the select tags option or in the drop down. Let's just type client new. As you can see, there's no existing tags here with this name client-new. We can click the button here at the bottom of the list with no data, click add new tag, and then it will create the tag client-new. Click this and then voila, we have client-new tag. To make this more convenient for you, always name your action. So currently we have the action name add tag, but we can also create this action name with a name already, client dash new tag. Now this says that once this contact goes by, the action name says client new tag that will be added to that contact. Now let's save this action and then you'll see the workflow is updated with one action. With this one action, this will function once a contact goes inside a workflow. So let's try to read this workflow. We have two triggers, contact type lead, contact type customer. If a contact is created with the contact type lead, with the contact type customer, then that contact will go inside this workflow. And then, as you can see, there's a line here. That's where that contact will go. It will go down to the first action, which is client new tag. This will add the client new tag. And that's how you create a workflow. Right now, we have a simple functioning workflow. Functioning? Well, right now it's on draft. As you can see on the top right, we have a switch, draft or publish. We could switch this if you want that workflow to be fully functioning inside your workflow. But right now, let's keep it on draft. Since as of now, I know we're not ready yet. Let's make sure that this workflow is already enough for us. Now, since we already have triggers and an action, let's try to answer what goes first, a trigger or an action. Right now in this setup, the trigger goes first. Now let's try to save this before we continue. As I said earlier, always name your workflows accordingly. Right now, this workflow is created tags. We want that contact to have a tag. So new contact created, add tag, client new. Now it says it all about what this workflow is currently functioning or what this workflow has as an action. Let's enter. And then at the top right, we have save. So click save. And now it will have a notification that your workflow is saved. So right now, we already have triggers and actions covered, but the rest of the interface of the workflow editor is still confusing. I know, there's a lot going on right now. I've only toggled about the left side sidebar. At the left sidebar, we have these buttons, but also we have here in the workflow editor, keyboard shortcuts. It's seen on the left side of the workflow. Clicking this will give you a pop-up at the bottom of your workflow. Keyboard shortcuts, we have here move the next node, save your workflow, that's the shortcut, and then we also have different more categories: essential, edit, view, navigation, and tools. You can check on this by yourself. Now, we also have at the left side again, at the bottom part, navigate your mouse here. We have here a button that changes your functionality when holding click on your mouse. When you click this, it will change to select. Holding your mouse or holding the left click of your mouse will give you the select function like as usual in your desktop. This will have the functionality in your mouse selecting triggers and actions all at the same time. We can also change this back to the default function, which is drag. Now, we can also zoom in and zoom out. We have here the zoom in button and zoom out button. And it showcases the current percentage of the zoom and out. Clicking this will zoom out and clicking this will zoom in. So let's try to zoom in a bit, or let's try to zoom all the way out. So right now we're at 20% zoom. We also have this button that says expand, although there's no pop-up, but it is an expand icon. Clicking this will expand or move closer to the workflow so that you can see the entire workflow as is. So it says fit to screen. Now, it's all fit to screen. We can see all what is happening in this workflow. If that's not enough for you, we also have the view flow mini screen or the mini map. We can manipulate this by holding your left click and dragging this whichever you want to direct it. This gives you a seamless flow that you can use when navigating or looking through your workflow. You can also zoom in and zoom out by using your scroll from your mouse. So at the top left, below this back button workflow list, we have a drop down standard builder. Clicking this will give you advanced builder. Let's try to go inside advanced builder. Inside advanced builder is a much more simplified look for your workflow builder. We still have the same two triggers contact created, but it's much more simplified. You don't see the functionality that it already has. So you have to click this, and then the pop-up will have it right here in the right side, equals to lead, and then click this, it's equals to customer. It also has the same function, the same action, client new tag. Clicking this will add the tag, and then yeah. So over here, we also have the navigation, but instead it's on the left side. We still have the view flow minimap or the canvas minimap, so we call here in the advanced builder. It only shows up if you ever navigate or drag the whole workflow. See here, it already disappeared. And once we move this, it goes back. We also have here the hand mode, fit to screen, zoom out, and format tree. Now, let's go back to the standard builder. We can move along now to the rest of the menu inside this workflow builder. We have in the workflow editor, builder, settings, enrollment history, and execution logs. Right now we're inside builder, but let's try to move to settings. Inside settings, we have a certain amount of settings that is uh, customizable, whether what you prefer here to be added or functioning. Right here, we have allow reentry. It's currently allowed or switched on. Allow reentry is basically just if a contact already went in, it can go back in again. We also have allow multiple opportunities, meaning it can allow multiple contacts. If one contact already went inside this workflow, another contact can go inside simultaneously. Also, we have here stop on response. Stop in response is that if a contact already responded to a workflow or to a message from this workflow, then it will stop or remove that contact from this workflow. Now, we also have here communication, the time zone, time window, sender details, and more. To understand this better, we have time zone. Changing the time zone will depend on which time zone you are in right now or which time zone that you want this workflow to be in. Right now, it's spacing on the time zone of the account. What account? The sub account. The sub account has a specified time zone. As I've shown you to the earlier video, creating a sub account means you also need to add a time zone. It's seen on the bottom part of the creation of sub account. And we can also have a contact time zone. Sometimes creating a contact requires them to add their own time zone. We also have here the time window, the specific time. It has the same functionality of the wait time, but instead, we can have a specified time for that. What's the wait time? It's an action inside the builder, but we'll be talking about that later on. Right now, we have start time and end time. Allowing a specific time means you will only have a restricted time when this workflow will function or when this workflow will let this contact go inside the workflow. It will still go inside the workflow, whether it's not in the specific time mentioned, but it won't move until that time comes. Now, the start time is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and the included days are Monday to Friday. So let's try to understand this. Let's say a contact went inside this workflow on Sunday. Question: will that contact go in or not? The answer is yes, it will go in. What if that contact came in Sunday, but it's still 7 a.m.? Yes, it will still go in. Why? As I said earlier, it will only execute the actions if that specific time has reached. If that contact went inside on Sunday on 7 a.m., it will just stay inside that workflow, but it will not move. It will only move tomorrow, which is Monday at 8 a.m. If it's still 7 a.m. on Monday, then it's still there, but it won't move. It will only move after or on the day of Monday. We also have here sender details. There's a function inside the builder. You can add an action that will send an SMS or an email. You can specify over here in the settings without manipulating more inside the actions of SMS and email sending. You can specify it here for all of the SMS and email actions. You can also add here from number if you already have a number from this workflow. And then conversations marks as read. Let's move along to enrollment history. Inside enrollment history is the enrollment history of all the contacts that went inside the workflow. It says here, view a history of all contacts that have entered this workflow. If ever your workflow is already functioning, published, and on the go for your sub account, then you will see here the numbers or the details of all the contacts that went in. First, we have the contact, which is the contact name, enrollment reason, why it went in. Since we have two different triggers here. It can either go in from this trigger or from this trigger. Again, the contact will go in if that contact has the type of lead or the contact has the contact type of customer. So it will be mentioned over here. We also have the date enrolled, and then current action, current status, and next execution, and when it will happen. The current action is where they are currently right now. The current status is where they are in this builder, and the actions is where you can also click, but I will show you this later on. We also have execution logs. It has the same functionality of enrollment history, but execution logs is a different approach. It gives you all of the execution that's happening. So let's say there are 5 actions. In that 5 actions, one contact will go through that 5 actions, meaning all of the 5 actions that happened will display here, regardless if it's just one contact or not. So the last parts that we need to understand in the workflow interface, we have on the top right, you can see here a KO icon. That's actually me. So currently I don't have a profile picture, but yeah, if ever there are multiple users that has the access to create or edit a workflow, they can see or you can see them peeking inside this workflow, or maybe they're currently editing. And as I mentioned earlier, I said there's a version history at the left sidebar. We have that same functionality, but instead we have it as recent changes. Here at the top right, beside the icon of me, there's recent changes. You can see that what you can undo and what you can redo. And then we also have the undo and redo buttons. We have here the test workflow. Clicking test workflow gives you a run test. This function as um, running a test inside your workflow. So the selection here is that whatever contacts that is already existing inside your sub account. So these are the current existing contacts. Then again, the draft and publish switch. Lastly, we have the add button. The add button is the same as the buttons inside the workflow builder, but instead it's just added here. You can click add trigger and add action. If you're clicking add action, where does it go? Click here and then it will go to the next part of your latest action. Now that we have this built out, again, we can go back over here in the version history. If ever you do not want this current status or current update that you have in your workflow, you can click the version history and then go back to the first version that you had before. Clicking this and then yeah, if you ever want to go back from scratch, maybe you can just create a new workflow. But yeah, it can have different versions as for the days that goes by or the the parts that you've already edited. But yeah, so that's about it on understanding the interface and what's the part of the workflow. Let's move on to answering again the same question: what goes first? Which one goes first, whether it's trigger or action? To answer that, actually, both. It's like answering the question which came first, chicken or the egg. The trigger is when a contact goes in, that will be the reason. And the action is the operation. The trigger is not necessary. The trigger can be added, but it's an option. Because as you saw earlier, you only have the trigger here, but you can also click the action already here without clicking the add new trigger. So to explain this further, we have to go outside this workflow. Let's envision that we don't have any triggers at all. Or maybe, yeah, let's remove the triggers right now. To remove this, we can click the delete icon or the trash can icon here by clicking this and then click delete. Oh, if you're curious as well, we have the copy button. Clicking this will give you the um, same features that you've added inside this trigger. Saving this will have the same trigger. But yeah, of course, it will have this error if you have the same trigger. You already have a trigger with similar configuration, contact created. Please update the trigger before saving. Yeah. So yeah, you can copy a trigger. Same as actions. You can click on this three dot icon and then copy action, copy all actions from here, and then a lot more. So yeah, let's move along and delete this trigger as well. And now, as you can see, there are no triggers, but still the action is existing. How does that work? Let's save this workflow for now. Now that it's saved, let's double check. Is this workflow already ready for any publication? Well, we can always stay on drafted mode because we have the test workflow. Even if it's on draft, we can click test workflow and then select a contact that will go inside this workflow. But I want to show you how does this workflow work without a trigger. The trigger is the automation, meaning there's an alternative to a workflow automation. So to test this, let's go to publish. Let's switch to publish and then save it again. You don't necessarily have to save the changes that you've done in your workflow before publishing. You can also publish that and then save it all at the same time. Yeah, so let's go outside to the main menu again in your sub account. But also, let's keep that workflow open or the workflow builder so that we can navigate easy. So right here, what I did is go to the from clicking this pagination to the second part and then clicking this new contact created, which we just created. Click this icon, which says open a new tab. Once this opens a new tab, we can go back here in the workflow list. Let's try to wait this. Now, let's go back to contacts. It's located again in the sidebar to the left over here. Once we click contacts, we'll be taken back to smart lists. In the smart list, it has or it contains all of the contacts that is currently existing inside your sub account. Now that we're here, let's try to test my contact, which is Kevin. Let's click the checkbox and then we'll have these options. the options, let's click the trigger automation, which is located over here. Click this, and then a pop-up will appear where it requires you to add an action name and a workflow. Now, the action name, why is this necessary? It says here, this is to be shown in the tracking report. This is important if you're really trying to navigate through the tracking reports. Let's say you're a tracker for the reports of how this workflow has been functioning, or the progress for this workflow, or the progress of the entire sub account. It's important to have specific action names so that you can track your records easily. So let's say this is just a test workflow, so that if you're tracking this report, you know that this action happened only for testing of a workflow. Now we have here a selection of workflow. Let's select the workflow by typing in our workflow name, since as you saw earlier, we have a lot of workflow in our workflow list. So it's named new, and then we have here new contact created, add tag client new. If we didn't publish that workflow earlier, it will not appear here in the workflow list or the workflow selection. Since it's drafted, you can't put a contact inside manually to function if it's still in draft. So it's very important that publishing a workflow is important for testing. Now let's select this, and then yeah, we have modes. Send all at once, select at a scheduled time, send on a scheduled time, and then send in drip mode. So these two are just for specified time. Drip mode is for a specific mode. To explain you this quickly, drip mode is when once a contact goes in, there's a time interval for the other contact to go in. So let's say the drip mode is 5 minutes. A contact goes in first, and then after 5 minutes, another contact goes in. And then another 5 minutes goes on, then the third contact can go in now. Yeah. So let's add this contact, clicking add to automation. Once that's done, to let you show the check progress, we can check the check progress or the bulk option actions here. So it says here success, add to automation one contacts is in progress, is scheduled. Yes, there's a lot of wordings there, but yeah, let's click the check progress button, and it should bring us to the category of bulk actions. And as you can see here, there's our label action. Test workflow, operation workflow, status complete, user is me, and then created on this specified time, completed on this specified time, and then statistics, and we have these actions. View details. Viewing these details, it will view all of the details that were collected by doing this action. So we have here action ID, type workflow, type label, and etc. That's everything that you have in this contacts. But also, we have a lot more going on here. We have custom fields and tasks and companies, but we'll be tackling that later on. For now, let's focus on the back end. Now that we've pushed this contact to the workflow, we can navigate easily back to this tab, which we've opened earlier, the new contact created, add tag client new. Sorry if the naming convention is very weird, but that's how I name my workflows. So what's this? It's just that. It's like nothing happened. To check if there's any changes that happen, let's go back to enrollment history. Click here, and as you can see, a contact already went in. And it says here, the contact is named Kevin. We have enrollment reason as bulk action, meaning we've manually added that as a bulk action from the contacts earlier. And then the enroll date is July 15th, and this time. And then we have the current action as client new tag. The current action that happened, or the current action that was there that happened for that contact, is this action, client new tag, which we named inside the builder. And then we have the current status as finished. What are the other status? Let's try to give that a much more deeper dive later on. And then we have here new execution on and not available. Why? Because there's no next execution. Now, what are these actions? We have here view execution history and see contact execution path. Let's try the view execution history, even though there's nothing to be displayed that much. But we have here removed by end of workflow, client new tag, and add to workflow. These three things happen even if there's only one action. How? The add workflow was the manual thing that we did. The client new tag is the action that is existing inside this workflow. And then the remove by is done by this workflow because it already reached the end of the workflow. It doesn't have anywhere to go anywhere. So yeah, we also have these actions. We have view details just to know if how this action actually happened. It says here the action was removed because it was from the end of the workflow, removed from workflow, event status, add from by, and the step message stopped due to execution reached the end of workflow. So we can also have another action here, view contact history. And also we have here, go to action. It just drags you back to the builder. But let's go back to enrollment history because we also have another action here, which is see contact execution path. If you click this, it will show you the path of where that contact went. But yeah, we don't have we don't have a path exactly. We just have a destination, but no path. But yeah, it shows here the green part is where that contact went. So we have here entered and then exit. It says here that the contact entered here and then it exited over here at the same action. So let's try to expand that and have a deeper view or better view for this action or for this workflow. As of now, our current setup is just one action. And honestly, we really need to bring back those triggers if we want to make this automation automated. So let's go back to version history, or should we go back to recent changes? If you've already exited from your workflow, these recent changes will go back to zero. It means it will not display the recent changes that you just did. So yeah, if you want to keep this, make sure to not close this window or not close this tab, I mean. So if we want to go back to version history, yeah, we could do this. But yeah, you have to create a new workflow, meaning to go back and restore this by clicking this. Yeah, to restore this, you have to click these three dots and then create new workflow from this version. But since it's just two parts, or two triggers, I can do this very swiftly. And then let's try to name this as contact lead. We can copy this and then it will pop up a contact created as well. And then you can delete this part and then name this customer. We have here contact type equals to, let's change this to customer and then save. That's it. I've saved the workflow and we already have the same setup as earlier. Right now, this is looking a bit plain. So let's try to create a system that once a contact is created, it goes inside and it will also notify, give a wait time, and update an opportunity. As I've shown earlier in the first video, there are opportunities which are like the graphs for us to see the progress of this specific contact. Now, we have the action option or the option to add an action before and after. Let's go to before because I think we really need to have a wait time. The wait time will be at least 5 minutes. So let's have the action name wait for 5 minutes. And then let's add this for set period of time. Change this to 5 unit minutes and then save action. So as you can see, the workflow already updated with this new action, wait for 5 minutes. Actually, we can also modify this name to specify that this is for adding a tag. Save action and then, yeah. So right now, our setup is that once a contact is created, whether the contact type is lead or customer, it will go in and wait for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, and then the contact will have this tag, a client new. But wait, we can also add another action, which I said earlier, which is sending of message. There are three types of messages. There's an internal, email, and SMS. So let's say send. The sending is email, SMS, and internal. We can also have these other functions or other actions, send review, WhatsApp, and send live chat message. But as of now, these three solid icons is what we'll be using. Let's say we'll be sending an internal notification to us. It can be email, notification, SMS, or WhatsApp. Let's say I want email, and that email will be sent from email, from name, from email, and the user type. It's important to understand that all of these inputs, all of these labels are very significant to what is internal notification and what is the action for sending. Because if you look at this, it's almost the same of what we'll be using later on, SMS and email. We have the action name, internal notification, new client, or maybe let's say new lead, internal notification. As you can see that the from name, from email, the user type aren't required, but the subject is. And we have here where we can edit our email. But if you don't want to edit those emails, we can always use a template. There are multiple templates right now in this sub account, but if you don't have any or you have none, you can always create that, and I'll be showing you that later on. So right now we don't have a subject. Let's say the subject is new lead and then exclamation point. And then we can add a message. Hi team, we just got. Now we have this set up. Let's just make sure that it's already set up correctly. Okay, now we also have here notify followers, contact followers. This is to send all users following this contact. If a user, like me, am following a contact that is a function in GHL, then it will notify me. Also, as you can see, the user type, meaning this will be sent to a user type. What type of user? Let's try to click this and select a specific user type. We have here assigned owner, particular user, and custom email. If I want all of the internal notifications inside of this, or this notification or internal notification action will send this internal notification to a specific person, then we'll be clicking or choosing particular user. But if we want that internal notification to be sent to an assigned owner or assigned user to this contact, then or assigned user to this sub account or to this workflow or whichever, then yeah, they will be sent to them. If I'm the assigned user for this, then of course it will be sent to me via email. Now, for now, we'll be using a particular user, which is me. Now that we've had all of these details set up, we can save the action, and then we have an internal notification. So currently we have three actions now. Once the contact goes in, I will be notified, and then the contact should wait 5 minutes. I guess for this perspective, it will take at least 5 minutes for me to be notified that there's a new user, and then after that, they'll be added a new tag. So let's save this, and then we can continue. Currently, we have this set up, but as I mentioned earlier, there's another thing that I wanted to add in this workflow, which is create or update opportunity. That is the name of the action. So let's go ahead and go to add new action and click this. Search for create, and then we'll have this option opportunity category create or update opportunity. The reason why it's only in one action type is because sometimes a contact is already existing with an opportunity, or maybe it's still not. It has the same action, but currently GHL is updating this since, yeah, it says here action deprecation notice. The create update action will soon be deprecated. Existing workflows will be unaffected. However, the new create opportunity and create opportunity action will be the actions to use moving forward. But yeah, let's use this for now. Right now we have action name, and in pipeline select in pipeline stage, and then select pipeline stage. Opportunity name, opportunity source, and a lot more. But as of now, we'll be only using in pipeline and in pipeline stage. Where is that? We have it over here. So earlier we were inside contacts, but now let's move on to opportunities just below over here. So right now there's an existing pipeline says lead one onboarding and active client. So let's try using this pipeline with the name pipeline and go back to the workflows. In this workflow, we can just update this name to create, or yeah, just create opportunity. And then let's select the pipeline name, pipeline. And then we'll be selecting where this contact will be created or updated. And as I said, let's say there's already a opportunity card or opportunity of a contact that is existing inside one. Then it's called update, not create. It's already existing, but since you've added that to be moved to lead, then it's called update. So right now, we'll be just creating this opportunity for this contact and move to lead. And then let's just save this action. Once that's saved, then we have a new setup which contains an internal notification, a wait time, add tag, and create opportunity. So make sure to save this. And yeah, we already have a workflow. And once that's done, we can move on to the front end. So currently we only have these 4 actions. But to improve this, we can have a much more complex approach for this workflow. There are 3 main things that we can do. Number 1, we can create a funnel. The funnel for the website where a lead can come in. Number 2 is the form or survey. A survey is where we can create a an action form or CTA for all of the leads that may come in. So if we have a form or if we have a survey, then we can have their details be put in inside our sub account so that we may fill up these contacts. And then lastly, we'll be creating some snippets or templates. So that will be on the next video. For now, thanks for watching.